Hello and welcome. We're going to be talking today about the Spring Budget 2017, which occurred yesterday. Depending on when you're watching this recording, it may not be yesterday. And the budget statement was brought to us by Philip Hammond, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. It was widely anticipated that we're not going to see any big announcements because they're now going to be announcing all the big stuff in the autumn rather than in the spring. And also remember that we now seem to be having a policy of announcing changes 3 years hence. So let's get started. My name is Gordon De Silva, and as well as being a multi-award winning chartered accountant, I'm also the creator of the Profit Multiplier program, a best-selling author, and a qualified trainer and coach. That's enough about me. Let's get started into the content. The first thing that we know is that the personal allowances are going to rise to £11,500 from the 6th of April 2017. We also know that as a result of that rise, there's also going to be an increase in the higher rate threshold, which is very generous of them, I don't think, to increase that to £45,000. So before you pay the 40% tax rate, you are allowed to earn £45,000. Remember, we're going to come to this in a minute, but if you are a director of your own company, and you take advice from a good accountant and use dividends as part of your planning, then you will also be paying an extra 7.5% dividend tax. It's not 40% anymore. It's 47.5%, and in fact your lower rate is not 20%, it's 27.5%. So let's not pretend these rates are super generous. Nearly 50% of your tax bill at over £45,000 is quite a stinging rate of tax. The country is broke, the revenue and the government are looking to take as much money as they can, and businesses are an easy target. The next announcement they made was that making tax digital, which is this new government initiative, is being delayed until April 2019. For certain businesses. The Chancellor has delayed the introduction of HMRC's Making Tax Digital for those under the latest VAT threshold, which is now £85,000, and that's not going to come in until April 19. Now, that means, I presume, waiting for the detail on this, that landlords who are caught by this legislation to require to file quarterly income and expenditure profit and loss statements don't have to do that until April 19. It was going to come in April 17 to 18. Now it's not going to come until April 19. The revenue are just completely unprepared for this. It doesn't make any sense, honestly. It makes more work for accountants, but look, I don't want rubbish work that doesn't really add value to clients. I want work that adds value to clients, gives them some benefit, and quarterly reporting to the revenue was a complete waste of time, and in fact was just going to add more cost and headaches to business clients and landlords of ours, and it is also going to give more fuel for investigations to the Inland Revenue, neither of which is really helping the business population. So, and remember, small business are responsible for the largest proportion of employment in the UK, and are where the growth comes in. A lot of these large organisations that have their office, like Amazon and Google and stuff, they have their offices in low tax havens, and they don't pay proper tax to the Inland Revenue in the UK, and so this is really unpleasant for us. Okay. The next announcement is self-employed class 4 NICs, and this is increasing to 11%, and it's increasing to 11% by 2019. Now, watch this space, because this has come with an incredible amount of negative press and pressure on the government. This 2% increase in national insurance contributions, or NICs as they're called, are paid by self-employed businesses, people typically small traders, plumbers, market stall holders, um, carpenters, that sort of thing, hypnotists. But also, it's used by many accountants, lawyers, doctors, consultants, as well. So it's not only them, and the bigger earners are going to get hit by a much greater amount. The headline says, you're going to pay £240 extra if you're in one of the higher paid self-employed groups like accountants and lawyers, although many accountants that we coach and mentor as part of our mentoring earn actually less than they should, because they just don't understand adding value to businesses yet. So it has been met with anger, and they're going to be paying sort of the more towards £2,000 more tax by self-employed entrepreneurs, and it will, pundits, and I agree, it's going to create a more level playing field between PAYE workers and self-employed. But there are just so many differences between being an employee and being a self-employed person. There's so much more risk and stuff that we have to do if you're self-employed than you would if you're an employee. There should be some sort of divide, but to be fair, the difference is significant, and we have been exploiting it for our clients for many decades now, and that we can see that the writing is on the wall here, that the government intends to do something about it. The VAT registration threshold is rising now to £85,000. From 1st of April 2017, the VAT registration threshold will increase to £85,000. It used to be £83,000, and it's now going up by £2,000. Remember that the deregistration threshold is also going to rise from £81,000 through to £83,000. So it's moving in the right direction. We'd like to see this higher, but it's coming. One quite nice one, if you have children, is childcare benefits are set to double to £5,000. From September 2017, free childcare for 3 and 4-year-olds will increase from 15 to 30 hours. That's really quite cool. I wish I had that when my kids were of that age. It certainly didn't. And that could be worth up to £5,000 for each child, so make sure you claim those. If you're a client of ours, just bring it to our attention that you have young ones, and we will look into it for you and do the necessary claims for you if you'd let us know. There's a road tax rise for vehicles registered before April 17. Now, many of our clients do not have company cars because they are taxed so enormously, and even electric cars, they have really low tax rates now, but all of these rates are set to increase. The government's policy seems to be, let's incentivize people to put their cars in the company with lower rates, and then as soon as they're in, we'll up the rates so they get stung for higher tax bills in 2 or 3 years' time. Absolutely bad news. Not really good. Not clear cut. Not fair. If you haven't got a good accountant who looks at these things and make sure you're getting the right advice on a regular basis, on a long-term basis. So as part of the spring budget, there will be an increase in road tax rates for cars, vans and motorcycles registered before April 2017, and this will be in line of the retail price index. That's not too bad. This is set to cost individuals not too much more than £5 extra in vehicle excise duty, but there's millions and millions of cars on the road, aren't they? I know every time I go to work I'm stuck in a traffic jam, so there's thousands of cars in front of me and behind me. The next change is to corporation tax rates. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's going to be cut to 19%. But remember, we're announcing these things years and years in advance. So in line with the government's need to keep the UK as competitive as possible, and attract businesses who want to pay less tax, there will be a further cut in UK corporation tax rates, bringing it down to 19% from 2018-19. We're still a couple of years away from the benefit of that. And remember, the tax on that year won't be taxed until 2020. So chances are you're not going to see any tax savings for some years to come. I'm sorry. It sounds good, doesn't it, in the budget? Oh, we're reducing corporation tax in 19 years. But you have to wait 3 years for you to benefit. It's just madness. Never mind. The next point I want to talk to you about is important, is the dividend allowance being cut to £2,000. This is a bit of a surprise move. The government introduced this new tax on dividends last year, and it started to bite clients this year. And you're paying sort of an extra 7.5% tax on dividends over £5,000. They gave this very supposedly generous £5,000 tax-free limit last year, and the clients have been benefiting from that, so to speak, but they've been getting hit by 7.5% all the rest of their dividends, which is quite a lot of, it's 4, 5, 6, sometimes £20,000 in extra tax on dividends. So the dividend allowance, it was £5,000, was a nil rate of dividends. So if you could take £5,000 of dividends and not pay any extra tax, that's now being cut to £2,000 with the effect of the start of the tax year in 2018. So that's coming up just over 12 months away now from when I'm recording this. There's also this 20% VAT on roaming charges outside the EU. At the moment, you haven't been paying any extra VAT on roaming charges. From now on, there'll be UK VAT on roaming telecom charges when used outside the EU for the first time. It's never happened before. That means that, if you go on holiday to the States or the Far East or Australia, places like that, which are quite common destinations for holidays and business, both holidaymakers and business travelers will see a 20% hike in call and data charges, remember. And that can be quite a lot of money. I know sometimes when I go abroad, my call and data charges can be, £150 and more, as I keep in touch with my clients in the office. And these charges are going to go up by 20%. Of course, if you're VAT registered, you get them back, but it's still a bit of a pain that you get them on the bill. As long as you get them through your supplier, we should be okay in claiming them back. So let's keep our fingers crossed that all works out right and the revenue don't muck that one up. There are some measures that will start biting from today, 8th of March, when I'm recording this. There are a few, so let's just cover them very briefly. Most of them don't affect most clients, so I'm just going to cover them briefly, and if it affects you, we will be having a conversation, I'm sure. So corporation tax and income tax treatment of appropriations to trading stock is going to be applicable. Now, that applies to 1 in 100 of our clients, and I'll be talking to you personally on that. Exploitation we've been using for paying less tax is stopped. Income tax and corporation tax on disposals of land in the UK, that's changing with effect from the 8th of April. Again, not many of you impacted. I'll call you specifically on that if it's you. There are promoters and tax avoidance scheme changes where people who are we used to promote tax avoidance because it was a legal thing. Tax avoidance was always legal, and except now it's being hounded as immoral by this government just because they're too lazy and incompetent to change the tax rules to make sure there is a clear law behind doing the things they want to do. They set the law incompetently, or the lawyers purposely do it to leave room for tax planners. Tax planners exploited it, and now the revenue goes, well, that's unfair because we can't keep up. We're not hot enough. We're not resourced enough. And the government says, well, we can't be bothered to get the tax law drafted correctly. So we're just going to prosecute promoters of tax avoidance if we go to court and you lose. And so you're now going to get people like us who are not going to really promote tax avoidance because, one, it's becoming so aggressive out there, and secondly, we're going to be in the frame for the massive bill. So there's no level playing field. The government, we're living in a country where the law which used to stand as the law as written was as how it was applied. It's now deemed by some politician and some tax inspector to decide how the law is supposed to function to collect the most amount of tax, regardless of what the law actually says. Not good, but that's come into effect as of today. And of course, if you've some of the planning we used to use are qualifying recognized overseas pension schemes, or QROPs as they were called. We were using them in the past, haven't used them for a while now, but that's changed on as of today, 8th from 9th of in fact that's changed for tomorrow, from 9th of March 2000. So to close this session then, we will be reviewing the initial announcements in much more detail and scrutinizing them in the days, weeks and months to come, and bring you updates. Keep an eye on our blogs, keep an eye on our the Facebook page, keep an eye on our tweets, keep an eye on our LinkedIn page. All of these will have updates to what we find out in terms of planning. There is an update coming up shortly for contractors and IR35, especially those in the public sector. Now, these were announced already in last year, but they're going to bite in a couple of weeks' time. I hope you're aware of that. I will be putting a new blog on that just to make sure that everything is clear to you. The government is playing hardball with this, in revenue playing hardball with this. They are forcing people to pay higher rates of tax. It has been coming for a long, long time. IR35 was introduced over 10 years ago, I think, and it's really just not doing its job. But you can see now that the country is broke. Labour governments and Conservative governments have really not taken the initiative until appears now. Surprisingly, a government that's usually against taxation is now putting tax everywhere, and they're actually taking the bull by the horns on IR35. So please watch this space: blogs, Facebook pages, Twitter feeds, LinkedIn, for new changes. Well, that is it for now. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you found that useful. I look forward to helping you with your business and property matters as and when you need it. You probably know that I've got a significant portfolio of properties and I understand property very well. So if you know anyone in business or property or with property portfolios who would like great advice, great accountants, great accountant and their team to look after them and keep their bills in check as best as we can given the legislation, I'll be really grateful to have those recommendations or introductions. Until we speak then, goodbye and thank you. Remember, we are business mentors and coaches. I'm the inventor of the Profit Multiplier program, helping businesses to double their profits in less time. Just using the power of focus and understanding the numbers and the language of business, which are numbers. Warren Buffett said that, and who am I to argue with him? I'm also the international best-selling author of Profit Propeller on Amazon Kindle, which is on special offer at the moment. My name is Gordon De Silva, multi-award winning chartered accountant, and our contact details are on screen right now. I'd like to thank you, and if you would be so kind, please share this link to this webpage, or this Facebook page, or this YouTube video, or any other way you've come to it. Share it with your friends, colleagues, and other people who could benefit from the advice of an amazing accountant dedicated to giving great service and helping clients increase their wealth. Take care of yourself. Goodbye.